Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the SAPIEN podcast. Today we got a great one with Brent Pella, who's a comedian here in LA. He's awesome. He's on Instagram and YouTube. I love all his videos. He's a health conscious guy. He works a lot with JP Sears, another health conscious kind of comedian guy that are doing really great things, kind of bringing awareness to the health world and bring some humor to it.
Yeah, Brent's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. I'm a huge fan. I was lucky enough to join him on his podcast, which you guys should check out, The Brent Pella Show. And, we talk a lot about funny stuff, but a lot about health. And I think that in a time where we really need to find our health, adding a humorous spin and to kind of find the sarcasm in it is so important. And I think no one does it better than Brent. He's, I look forward to working with this guy in the future. And if you guys haven't checked out his YouTube or his social media on Instagram, he is freaking hilarious. I highly recommend it. And we had an awesome time with this one. We talked about, sort of what he's up to help educate people through comedy. We talked about his journey as an athlete, comedian, and in the food space, and how it all connects. So I think you guys will learn a lot, you'll laugh a lot, and really enjoy yourselves.
Yep. And just remind everyone that we take no sponsors. We do it all ourselves. And we have the SAPIEN program. This is something that we believe in, we put together. So instead of taking money from outside people, we put together our own products and services. We have Dr. Gary leading the physician supervised program. It's a whole online course. You can do it remotely. We have health coaching remotely. We have videos, articles. It's all there. It's a 10-week program. It can change your life.
And that's what we want to do. We want to help people change their life. We also have the SAPIEN Tribe. It's really a health community where we do Zoom calls, we do talks, we have special bonus episodes of Peak Human and eventually this podcast. And we just want to bring more content, more support, and really build a community of like-minded people because that's the only way we're going to be successful with all this is to work together. I also want to mention nosetotale.org. It's Brian's project. He is sourcing meat from regenerative farmers, and he is providing the highest quality products, amazing products like Primal Light, which is an organ meat blend. He's got a lot of great other products, including beef tallow, topical creams, and I really highly encourage you guys to check it out.
Yep. And so that's nosetotale.org. Our SAPIEN program and tribe is sapien.org. And yes, a nose tail is delivered to you, and we have some more products as well. You should check out the site. And also, you should check out evolvehealthcare.com. So that's Dr. Gary's practice in Woodland Hills. He's an amazing doctor. I'm telling you, when I first saw him with a patient, I was so impressed with how you interacted with patients and how it was such a different experience. And, well, everything you do is a different experience because you're not just slinging pills and medicines and all that. You can be with them remotely, or if you're in the Los Angeles area, you can go there and you can get root cause medicine. We'll find out the real problems going on and not just prescribe pills. So
we are here for you, everyone. And without further ado, Mr. Brent Pella. We're here in our brand new studios here at Super Creative. This is the SAPIEN podcast, and I'm here with my guys, Brent Pella, Brian Sanders.
what's up, guys?
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for being here, Brent.
Thanks for having me, bro.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Stop it.
You're amazing. I won't stop. I'm never going to stop. You can't stop me.
Oh, shit. So just to jump off from how I even found about Brent, I was on Instagram, and I saw this guy making fun of the carnivore diet. And this was... it stopped me in my tracks. It was such a funny video.
Thanks, man.
Me and Brian are deep in this whole carnivore space. Obviously, you're on the SAPIEN podcast, and we're talking about food and lifestyle. And at first when I saw it, it was just funny. It was just honestly a clever podcast or a video. And over the last few months, I realized there was a lot of power to the fact that you were willing to sort of share this new kind of approach to eating. Did that cross your mind, just to jump into it, did that cross your mind at all when you were making it? Or was it just hey, there's this new... Yeah, like I'm just gonna make fun of this. Like there's these funny guys eating all this meat. Ha ha ha.
Definitely a mixture. I mean, first and foremost was like, yeah, I have to make fun of anybody who's just eating, flounder and bison every day because that's just hilarious in itself. But also, people make fun of vegan diets and vegan people get like really mad about it. And I think when you I felt like if I made fun of the carnivore diet, people who do carnivore were gonna like champion it because it's like.
So that went through your head.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I really do like touching on topics that maybe a lot of people don't know about. So in a funny way, maybe they might be sparked to go learn something about it. That's definitely not anywhere near the first reason I'll make something. The first reason is always because it's funny, but
Big Meat paid you to make that?
yeah, Big Meat. Big Meat paid me to make that.
Well,
video.
no, Sean Baker did repost it though.
Yeah, Sean Baker. Yeah, the meat king.
The Meat King. Like a vegan wouldn't repost a video of them being made fun of.
Right.
And that I think is where it's interesting, where the humor is actually a way to introduce ideas, and it doesn't mean that you're like bashing it.
Yeah.
Where I don't know. I wonder if that's how people see it. I don't know. For us, I think we're so excited to share this idea of eating, a meat-based diet, carnivore-ish, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see someone who gets it, like, because it was clearly you got it, right? Like I already knew that you were eating a low-carb diet or that you understood sort of what these people were doing.
Yeah.
And yet, like, being able to make fun of it, I think creates so much freedom and it opens people's minds,
Well, it's a court jester thing.
Yeah. Oh, so let's just dive. I started talking about this before the episode, but I want to dive into it because I think this is where sort of, the food meets the concept of food meets the current political climate. We are in the middle of this COVID pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you on our podcast is because a comedian has a very important role in our society, and it's not just to make people laugh. So, there's this idea of a court jester when you go back to the time of kings and queens, right? And you have this court jester, and their role was really to make fun of the elite. You don't make fun of the plebs. There's nothing to make fun of, right? But you make fun of the
You have
king.
no food. You're
Yeah, right.
You poor bit.
But, to make fun of the king, to make fun of the leadership, it keeps people in check. It keeps their egos in check, and it keeps people honest. Like if you're doing something super silly, you should be called out on it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think you and JP spoke about this on your podcast, but this idea that, once the king kills the court jester or silences the court jester, now you have tyranny. Now you have a destruction of the leadership. You have a destruction of the ability to keep the leadership in check.
Right.
And I think what you are doing with your comedy and kind of bringing up not just making fun of Trump, but making fun of the other side, not just making fun of a vegan diet, but making fun of these other, this other way of eating. It keeps everyone honest. And I think that like recently comedy has, at least in my world, has lost that. It's so polarized. It's so politicized, like everything else in our society, that it's such a breath of fresh air to see your videos. And it really feels that way.
Yeah. It's like, I see people grasp on to different things, especially because of social media, either an idea or a person that they look up to, like God. And I've looked back at some of the work I've done over the years, especially the impressions of people like Eminem, The Rock, Joe Rogan. Like those guys are people who are literally looked up to as gods.
Venerated.
Right. And I wanted to be like, okay, no, those guys shit their pants when they have diarrhea, just like the rest of us. Okay, right?
Terramana, bro.
Right. And so I like trying to poke at people like that and concepts like that to let people like take a breath and realize, oh, maybe we were taking this person or this idea too seriously, right? Like even the mainstream news. I've done a bunch of different sketches and videos, kind of trying to poke fun at the mainstream news. And I've seen in the comments, because I read the comments because I'm a psycho desperate for validation, and I'll read the comments and I'll see people being like, "Oh, that's so true. I never thought of it like that. Oh my God." And like that is such a good feeling because I've helped in some small way. I've helped them realize, oh, maybe we were taking this part of life a little too seriously.
Well, that's the best way to do it. You can't, if you come out too strong or you forcibly try to change people's minds or put out like a crazy alarmist, like, oh, you look at this, then people think you're a conspiracy theorist or you're insane or you're,
Right.
why are you attacking the big media? But if you come at it from a comedic angle, then it's more approachable and you can
Yeah, it's easier to digest and it's like more fun too.
Another kind of interesting parallel, I think, with both of your guys' approaches. So Brian does a lot of this outreach through his Food Lies platform, and his whole thing since day one has been, I'm going to tell both sides. I'm going to look at all the perspectives. I'm going to talk to vegans. I'm going to talk to pescatarians. I'm going to talk to carnivores. I'm going to be all inclusive. And I think similarly, you know, like you're making fun of everyone, like both sides, both approaches, no one gets a pass. And I think that, you know, it's more funny, but it's also more honest and sort of elucidating of like what is really going on here.
Right.
And I think that's a parallel and why I think Brian too has gotten so much attention and sort of, I think in my eyes, it's credibility because it's not beating some ideological
like eat meat only or die. If you eat one plant food, you're dead.
Right.
Or even something like ketosis. You have to be in ketosis. Check the strips. Like there's no like ideology. It's just, hey, let's understand what's going on. Let's look at all sides and let's make up our own mind. And I think that's I really feel like the connection between our little world of like nutrition and lifestyle and your comedic world.
Yeah. It's showing both sides to anything, especially diet, right? Because everybody's body is just physically different.
Yes.
It is really important, you know. It's important to me to share that too, because in this day and age of like this crazy tribalism and choosing sides and shit, like all that is just so absurd to me that we have to choose sides, whether it's diet or it's politics or it's current events or topical, whatever the news story is today. We have to choose a side, right or wrong, left or right. I don't think that's how we were meant to live. We're not supposed to choose to be against another side. We're supposed to be, you know what I mean?
Humans are pretty tribal.
Honestly, this whole concept of tribalism, and I've heard, you know, a lot of podcasts now, everyone's talking about it. I don't know that I agree. I think that tribalism is a part of us. I think that when you poison the well and you literally make two tribes that hate each other and there is no moderation, there is no middle ground, I think that's pretty poisonous.
That's the tribalism I'm talking about.
Right.
The extreme.
It's the extreme tribalism, but I think understanding that we are tribal creatures and that we live in a society where it's too many people. And you need to have your crew. You need. Well,
I don't think everybody should be like, "What's your favorite basketball team?" Fucking all of them. No, I don't. That's not like, you know. That's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But the extremes that we see now, where it's like, oh, if you agree with one thing, then I hate you, and I will never speak to you again because you agreed with this one thing.
Do you feel that? Like when you make a video like the carnivore video, do you catch heat? Like how much, you know, like how many are you getting like vegans like you're insane or oh yeah, you got it. Like meat's terrible. Like what is the response that you're getting on that?
For that one specifically, I got a lot of new followers that were like carnivore, hardcore carnivore people. And then I would get DMs because I make a lot of homemade pasta, right? On Sundays. I love it. During quarantine, it was like a couple days a week. And then I started to look like a linebacker. So I switched it to Sundays only. So Sunday is my big carb day. And I reposted the carnivore video. And then I on my story, I would post like pictures of the pasta I'm making. And I would get DMs from people that were like angry because they started following me from the carnivore thing. And they were DMing me like, "You're poisoning your body, bro. Like, what is this? Those noodles better be made of like
organic flour, bro."
Yeah.
Although that's not a bad idea.
Right. Yeah. and so I thought that was really funny. But, you know, I've done a couple videos making fun of like mainstream news. And I include news anchors from both sides because I despise all mainstream news. And so I'm including people like Chris Cuomo, Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson. And I've gotten like a couple DMs from people saying, "Oh, you're making fun of Tucker Carlson, bro? I'm out of here. Unfollowed."
Really?
Unfollowed. And
so
I
it's
just
the
say
same
bye.
on both sides.
Well, yeah, man.
just
It's a
upset.
Fox News guy and a CNN guy, and you can argue both ways. You can say, "Oh, but this guy really tells it like it is," and then somebody else can say, "No, this guy really tells it like it is." And at that point, it's like, "Hey, bro, you don't even have the ability to mentally step back and look at it from another side. And if you don't have the ability to do that, then yeah, fucking see ya.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love.
I don't know.
don't care.
I think it's important that like you know people try to think for themselves, and
Yeah.
so that balanced approach, it's the only way to expose the poisonous part of this tribalism, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a poisonous part. There's a lot of good though too. You know, there's a lot of good. I mean, I'm a big Patriots fan. Okay.
Yeah.
If I didn't have
Sorry.
other Patriots fans around me,
Who? Where?
I'd be a pretty sad guy.
Not here.
They're not here on the East Coast. They're 3,000 miles away, but I know that they exist.
Wait, so how did you get red pilled on the food stuff? Because I feel like there's this progression that people go through is you go along with your life and you're just like, I eat whatever I want and I just listen to the news. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm getting fat. And then you kind of, maybe in our community, you go down this rabbit hole of you figure out nutrition and you're like, oh, wait, the government was wrong. And then what's happening in COVID times is they're like, oh, wait, maybe they're wrong about way more things.
Yeah.
But so we'll get to the way more things. But first, like what happened with food for you?
With food, it's been to where I am now. It's been like a 7-year journey, just a slow, progressive evolution from what I was eating in high school when we would have like pasta nights the night before game days,
Carbo load,
basketball,
bro.
yeah, carbo load nights. Like I can't imagine doing that now. It seems like the worst thing you could do. Just wake up soggy and full of water weight and bread and pasta. And in college, I was eating anything I wanted. I'd put down a box of Cheez-Its, you know, with like a can of tuna and a bunch of mayonnaise. And then,
And you're a collegiate athlete, right?
yeah, I played basketball. Yeah. So my metabolism was UC Santa Cruz for 2 years and then Santa Barbara for my last 2 years.
Awesome.
And so I was like, it never affected me though. I never like felt sluggish because, you know, you're 21 and everything was just coming out.
You're
super
carb
fast.
adapted, bro.
Yeah, I was adapted. Yeah. But I always had injuries. I always had like ankle injuries and knee problems. And I had this weird slip disc in my back from a growth spurt. And so in my early 20s, like 23, 24, I mean, I'm 17 now, but when I was 23 and 24, I started looking into like, okay, what food what can I do besides just like training better and stretching more? And so I started to cut dairy. That was one of the first things I did. I cut milk and I cut butter, and my acne went away. I had like bad acne in my early 20s, and it just went away after I did a strict cut of dairy. So that was the first thing. And then after that, I started to just test different things. I tested being a vegan for about a month. It was okay, but I was hungry a lot, and I didn't like how often I had to snack. I just didn't like that. And so then I tested like, a lot of chicken and turkey, and let's stay away from red meat and stay away from pork. And I tested that, and that was cool, but I was still like really foggy a lot.
Bacon.
And bacon, yeah. And I missed bacon. And so my brain was still really foggy, and I couldn't concentrate very well for like, this was like over the course of a year or two. And then I started looking into the meat and greens way, the meat and greens approach, and the red meat and greens particularly. And so then it evolved to that. And then from there, it evolved to like, let's add some more fat because maybe let's take some inspiration from the keto diet. And so all these like little steps along the way have helped me in different ways, right? So like when I cut carbs, the fogginess went away. The fogginess lifted. When I added more fats and red meats, my body would heal quicker after small injuries. When I added different types of multivitamins or supplements, I would have better like cognitive function, better memory. Like I remembered today's podcast without writing it down. That is, dude, that doesn't sound like a big achievement, but for me, that's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like remembering a meeting without writing it down literally anywhere. So to get to that point, it took all these little steps. I know I'm ranting all over the place, but it's like it took all these little steps to get to where I am now with my diet, which is mainly meat and greens and healthy fats, mostly red meat, and not a ton of greens, but a good amount.
So Brent Pella, you would say that you eat a sapien diet?
I eat a sapien diet.
Brent
We
Pella.
just needed to get that for our marketing,
Brent Pella.
our marketing firm.
Let's do this one more time. Brent Pella.
My name is Brent Pella, and I eat a sapien diet.
Camera.
Print it.
The more you know.
Well, you know what? Someone emailed me today. A listener was saying, "Oh, I listened to Paul Saladino's last podcast. It looks like he's going sapien. I think he had it right the whole time." I'm kind of like, "Hey, we didn't invent this. This is just what humans should eat." And I think everyone's going to get there at a certain
Yeah,
point. It's
yeah.
just like, you just go. It's like I can't eat ground bison for every meal of my life for the next
Right.
20 years. It's you get to, animal-based healthy diets.
Yeah, and it's what works for you, right? Like everybody's, like we said, body is very different, and maybe there is a general guideline that would work best for everybody. But you're still gonna have vegans that are bodybuilders. You're still gonna have dudes.
No.
There are some.
Yeah,
maybe they're
transit.
roided.
Yeah.
That's fine.
This is the thing. Yes, everyone's body is different, right? Some people can tolerate carbs more than others. And there's also like cycles, right? Where there's different parts of your life where you need different nutrients, right?
Yeah.
Pregnancy, if you're training super hard,
Injury
if you're
recovery.
injury recovery, you're doing extended fast versus not doing extended. There's a
Right.
lot of like variables, right? But I think that this concept that you could, that a non species specific diet is okay for somebody. No, like I do think that with the concept of the sapien lifestyle and diet, it fits everyone. There's a lot of variability within that, but you have to have general principles that make sense.
Yeah.
You cannot say that some people are going to do really well on a low fat diet. They can survive, but when we're talking about humans thriving, like I'm interested in crushing it. I'm interested in my patients
Right.
crushing it. I'm not interested in like, oh, you can do this. It's okay. You can get away with it. I'm not interested in getting away with it, right? That's fine. A lot of people are getting away with all sorts of bad health, bad lifestyle.
So let me ask you this. So if I have friends that are vegan and they feel fantastic, no steroids or anything, but they feel great, they play sports, they're active, they meditate, they strictly eat vegan, plant-based foods, and they feel great.
I think
Do you think they could feel better if they incorporated some sapien stuff?
How long have they?
this is, if I can, because there's two factors there, right?
Yeah.
One factor is the time course. Like how long have they been doing it, right? So you can feel great. It's just you run out of vitamins. You run out of fat. Like it eventually burns out. And then two, are they quote unquote supplementing? So you can supplement a vegan diet with all sorts of products, including B vitamins, including fish oils.
Yeah.
And then also, I think this is where Brian is going to go because he's the one who brought this up. There's vegans that are like, oh, well, I'll eat this every once in a while. Like I'll
like
have
fish
some fish every once in a while.
weeks. Yeah.
You're not vegan. That's
Right.
not a strict vegan diet.
Right.
Like oysters specifically, I knew some vegans and they ate oysters once a week. I was like, so that's the most important food you're getting.
Right.
Chris Masterjohn's a great nutrition expert guy, PhD guy, and he's like, what are you relying on for your nutrition? What is like the most important part? And if you're getting that most important part from animal foods, then are you vegan? Or what if you're getting the most important part from supplements? So then you're not even eating a diet. You're getting the most important parts from some pill.
Right.
Well, that's like, well, what are you even doing?
And the important part there is if you're strictly vegan for years and years and years, you have to supplement B vitamins. There's just no way about it, right? So you are dependent on that supplement for success. Whereas when I recommend supplements, which I do, and I support supplementation because our food system is destroyed for the most part, and it's hard to get enough magnesium, it's hard to get enough omega-3s. So I do recommend that. But you're not dependent on those things for success. Like that is optimization. That is, yes, feeling even better, performing even better, but you don't need the supplements if you follow a healthy lifestyle and diet like we were talking about. Whereas a diet where you have to have powders, you have to have a smoothie every day, you have to have some fake chemical processed whatever, that's not a diet. That's a figment of our bizarre world that does not exist within a Homo sapien structure, but exists within like this corporate financial, disconnected world that is everything you talk about in your comedy. And what we're seeing becoming explicit with the COVID thing is exposing all these disastrous non-human based behaviors.
Yeah.
So yeah, my whole point when I talk about it is I'm not judging people that want to be vegan or that have their food limitations, but be real about human nutrition. Like, let's be honest about what it takes to be a human being.
Well, so what's their deal though? So what's your take on it? Like, are they actually doing great?
Oh, well, the people I know, go ahead.
Shit, one more point.
Yeah.
I just want to say it. You can work very, very, very hard and make sure you consume the things you need. But as you mentioned, you have to eat frequently, you have to supplement, and you have to do all these things. And I don't think for the average person living their life, they're successful doing that. So maybe there are those elite athletes or people that have committed their full lives and spend all day procuring and generating foods that are vegan, but that's just not like a practical approach to human health. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not practical. If you have the resources and the means, you can be a pro athlete and be vegan because you have the resources and the means, right? And you can have a trainer that knows veganism inside and out and can get you the supplements and the powders. I just have a couple friends that have been vegan for like a couple years. One's pregnant and vegan, but I mean they supplement and they do all the
supplement.
Things.
That person is supplementing omega-3s aggressively if they don't want to have problems with their pregnancy.
Right. And
they're dependent on that supplement.
Yeah. And for me, I just felt when I tried being vegan for like a couple weeks, I felt fine. It was just a matter of like how often I was eating, and I don't got the time. I got no time for that. You know, I don't want to be popping peanuts every 10 minutes.
I have a different perspective because people come to me and DM me from years and decades of doing it. And they tell me their stories of, I did it all. I did this. Your body breaks down. They're warning me. They're saying it doesn't work. You think it's fine. You blame it on other things. You try to do all the supplements. It doesn't work. I've talked to maybe hundreds by now of these people. I had a meetup in Chicago. This woman came. She was vegan her whole life. She said she has every problem and disease in the whole book. She was just like finally healing on a carnivore diet, you know?
I've heard so many stories like that.
But well, for one, I've never heard people go backwards. I've never heard some people that find animal-based nutrition and they're like, I'm going to go vegan. But anyway, it's so we keep making these excuses like, oh, it's fine. That person's doing well. That person's doing well. But I've just never seen the long-term people. There's like 5 influencers who have Instagrams that their whole life depends on being vegan. Yeah. Right. But like other than those, it seems like we just keep making excuses for them. And then eventually it's called drawdown. You draw down your nutrients. As we're saying, it's like eventually the nutrients run out. It's just plant foods aren't meant to support a human.
Yeah. When I came out of it, like over the past maybe 2 years or a year and a half of really honing in on this meat-based, I'm like 70-30, meat versus vegetables. And then there's a ton of fat in there somewhere. I feel the difference. Like even if I was working out well and I felt good when I was eating like 30-70 plant, 30-70 meat plants, 30% meat. Now I know it's a noticeable difference. If I'd stayed at that ratio, I probably would have been like fine, but I never would have known this next level that I feel like I'm at now.
One-way street. It's a one-way street. That's what happens with waking up to the world too. It's people don't figure out more about how the government works and how all these things that people call conspiracies. You don't go backwards. You know what I mean? That's what
Once the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing with like a diet that's again not optimal, right? We're talking about an optimal diet. When you have like a standard American diet, a SAD diet, or a vegan diet, right? You get sick slowly. And this is, I think, what's so difficult is that it's not like you feel like crap right away. Yeah. It's not, you normalize, also you normalize feeling not so good. So with a standard American diet, it takes decades to develop metabolic disease. You gain a pound or 2 a year. Your blood sugar creeps slowly. We don't even check insulin levels, but those start coming up first. And then the blood sugar starts creeping. And by the time the diagnosis is made, by the time there's a heart attack that actually causes some kind of action. By the time in a vegan situation, the B vitamin deficiencies are so bad that you're losing your hair and you're having hormone imbalances, you're way down the road, right? You're like 10, 20 years down the road. And at that point, there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of like, you got to swallow the pill of like, man, I made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what's happening in like the Western medicine community. If we've been promoting this kind of way of eating, this whole grain balanced diet, plant-based diet, red meat's bad, saturated fat is bad.
Dude,
they're down the rap.
When I was a kid, I looked it up the other day just to see what it was. The food pyramid, bro. The whole bottom section
His bread.
it had cereal.
Fucking Cheetos.
It had cornflakes, dude.
Yeah.
That's so insane to me. That 40%, they were recommending you eat 40% bread, spaghetti, and cornflakes.
8 to 11 servings. It's wild.
So my point, just really quick. So again, I always want to bring people to this idea of like, I see the clinical, like I see in a clinic and with patients in front of my face. So I've been seeing, and we've all seen the degeneration of humans, right? The 60-year-old that's like super sick. You don't need to be super sick when you're 60. You don't need to be in a nursing home when you're 70. That's not normal. We've normalized it, but it's not normal. But what's the dramatic thing is when someone figures out animal-based foods, right? And they figure out what you're talking about, increasing that protein, that healthy fat ratio, decreasing inflammatory foods like grains, and so many vegetables are just covered in pesticides and all sorts of shit, right? Once they figure that out, the improvement is rapid. It's dramatic, and it's why guys like Sean Baker are having so much success, is because once you're sick, it's not like it takes 20 years for your body to recover. No, we are really adapted at survival. We start absorbing those nutrients rapidly, and you see the life come into people's face.
Yeah.
You see their mood change. You see their skin tone. You see the way they look at you, the way they look at you in the eyes. That it's so profound and overwhelming that, that's why I'm so passionate to get on here and like talk about it and make up episode after episode after episode, because it's how you change your life.
Yeah.
Putting on a mask, fine. We could talk about that. But you want to change your freaking life? You want to really be healthy? Change how you eat. Yeah. Open your eyes to another plant, propaganda film I just saw on Netflix about soil. I don't know. Did you hear about this?
The ground? I think it was like disguised as...
Wow.
What is that about?
Wow. Kiss the ground. First 5 minutes. This happened to me 2 days ago. First 5 minutes, Woody Harrelson, they're talking about soil. I'm like, me and Brian, we're like, we love soil. Let's regenerate soil. Let's sequester carbon. Let's rebuild our planet.
Use the animals.
Use the plants.
Yeah.
Dude, I watched, and my fiance is like, let's watch it. I love it. She's like, I love soil. She's like, she's into it. She's learning about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but if this is plant-based, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, because it can't be a propaganda film. It has to be about soil health,
right,
which is about the entire food system.
Right.
All of it. Like, so we start there. And at first 10 minutes, all about soil, the carbon cycle, blah, 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 whatever. I love it. I'm fired up. Woody Harrelson's doing a good job.
Yeah.
For an hour, they talk about soil. No, not a picture of a cow, not a picture of an animal, just carrots and celery. Then they break out to like Tom Brady eating some green soup. I'm like, right, because that dude just green soup. That's how he does it. Like, but he doesn't even say anything. It's all Giselle. Like, you could tell. Oh my God. And then it became such a propaganda film.
So
I was
just pro plants.
It was.
They slipped a little. I didn't see it, but I heard they slipped like Gabe Brown in a little
Like
bit.
a little bit. The problem is yes, it's a plant propaganda film. While the message, I agreed with 95% of what they said. It was all good, but it's like leaving one of the major facts out. Like, how do you create topsoil? How do you create healthy soil? Well, you need poop from ruminants. Yeah. How do you not mention that?
Right.
Way more than, well, you need the whole animals, the holistic management. You need them. Okay.
But at least mention, at least show a picture of a freaking cow, man. Like, it's part of a farm. They literally, you could see the cut, and they just cut the shot before the animal gets in. So that's why it's propaganda. Like, if it was even if it was like heavy-handed towards plants, and they didn't really like mention the cows, but there was a picture of a cow in the background, and you kind of got it. like in a subconscious level, I'd have been like not losing my mind. But for them to so clearly propagate these just like false ideas, it's so infuriating to me.
People are bought into it. I played basketball with Woody Harrelson. You should come to our league one day if it ever.
I would love to.
If you get
really
with Woody, yeah,
dude, hang on.
We talked to him.
Hang on a minute.
He only came once.
Okay. How long ago?
Like less than a year ago.
Okay. All right. But I'm in still.
Okay.
All right.
Gotta watch.
Never gonna come again.
This guy strokes the ball nice.
I do.
No, but seriously, some of these people, they just need to.
You stroke balls really good.
Stroke ball's good. Yeah.
I was trying to get him clued in. I didn't know he was like on the plant-based little train.
Yeah.
And I started talking to him about some of the stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm making this film about it. He's like, oh, what is it? You know, and then I realized later, he's like, oh, no, he was not.
Is he vegan?
I don't think.
Or is he a big plant-based guy? All right, let me ask you this then, because you were fired up. That was a fired up rant, Dr. G.
I can't.
That was hot, baby. Let me ask you this though: if there are so many movies being made that champion veganism and plant-based diets, I'm curious what you think the purpose is when all the money seems to be in factory farms, and so why are there not just as many propaganda films saying "eat cows"? Like, what would the purpose be if these are all propaganda?
Well, there's a lot of money in the plant-based movement. Plant protein companies are like a whole
like Beyond Meat.
Well, James Cameron, who made the Game Changers film, had $170 million in plant protein.
Yeah, I mean a lot of celebrities, you know, that like Kevin Hart comes to mind who promotes that. I mean, there's just a lot of money. There's a lot of money in new companies that are developing plant-based products.
Interesting.
So the companies that make money on factory farming, it's a small group. They've already pushed out all the small farmers. They've already taken over the entire dairy industry. There's like a handful of dairies left in the whole country when there used to be hundreds. So it's almost like they already crushed that animal production market. They got it. They make their money. Tyson Foods, they got it. Like, so where's the money for the investor? Where's the money for a celebrity who's got extra dough, who has exposure? It's in plant-based products. There's also like a sexiness, but then if you go even deeper, there's you know, our food system, our food recommendations are anchored in the plant-based agenda. Like a lot of the anti-meat propaganda comes from like basically organizations that are funded by plant-based propaganda machines, like the Seventh-day Adventist Church. What do you think?
To it. Sorry.
There's a lot. It's deep.
Well, why is a food pyramid based on all the grains and the corn? It's this whole moving train that started hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and just that happens to be America has all this land, and we're like, oh, we can grow corn, wheat, and soy. They're like, oh, we can subsidize it. We're going to do all these things, and lobbying groups in that industry, because they're making a lot of money on it, pushed it towards this food pyramid. And it also is a matter of cost, because you can't feed the world. So they knew that when we make the dietary guidelines, we have to feed the hospitals, the schools, the military. All these things are, even the food stamps program. So I'm making the film about this, you know. So I was digging in, and then they had the original guidelines that were more whole foods based, and you know what we're talking about, what we like to eat. And they were like, well, we can't make the food stamps program work. How are we going to afford to give them all these fresh meat and vegetables? So it's like, well, how about? And then the lobby is coming like, oh, what about this corn, wheat, and soy? You know, we can feed the world with this. We can feed the poor people with this. And so that's part of it. And there's also it's the profit margin. The profits have a lot to do with it. So the profit margin. Yeah. So I sell grass-fed meat. I have a company called Nose to Tail. I know how it works now. I make no money. I'm basically doing it just to have a company, and because there's no profit margin in the meat. So you're saying, oh, there's these big meat. No,
it's
expensive
takes all
that
produce
money to
and
produce animals,
to sell.
and to get all the whole process. And it's a mess though too. Actually, there are 4 main meat companies, right, that run everything. But that's just the last process of it. It's 96% of farms in America are family owned. And they're very small. In the world, 80% of the value of the entire world's food system is created by small family farms.
But they end up funneling into these big
FAO data.
But they end up funneling into the major companies that then distribute.
Funnel into the bigger companies.
And
that's the problem.
And that further cuts the profits, and it also makes it not local. I mean, there's this idea that if food was more local, it would be less profitable per se, but it would make more sense.
Yeah.
But instead of that, instead of like having a bunch of farms, a bunch of like in California, we have tons of land to grow animals and we could feed California, but it makes more money to grow a bunch of almonds, use up all our water making almonds, and then export those almonds. And so it's so you make a seed, you're growing a seed at the cost of our entire planet, all of our resources for profit. And so when you have a food system that doesn't incentivize like life, but it incentivizes profit, it's just rotten at its core. And I think that's why this is such a huge hurdle, it's such a huge battle for us, and why there's so much money being thrown around to promote ideas that are like not true, because you have to do that to keep that money train going. If you don't, things fall apart, people realize what's going on, and it's game over for a lot of big money-making companies.
Let's go back. There's this perception that there's all this money, big meat. You know, the vegans always come to me like, oh, they don't have money. There's a cattlemen's association. It's like people pay like a few dollars per month or something. You know?
Wouldn't those people be talking about places like Tyson?
What do you mean? The cattle?
The big when you think when I think big meat,
Tyson
I think like Tyson, or you know what I mean, or like a place like that.
So what do you mean?
So you're saying doesn't Tyson have big money to promote their meat product?
Yeah.
I think that they already have the whole game on lock. They're not worried about it. Like they're
and I don't think they have the same money. They don't have the same profit margin as all the plant foods would. If you look at the profit margin, just the percentage, it's like no matter what, there's only so much money you can make off of meat.
Yeah.
But like if you process, I did a whole post, I did a graphic on the profits in the processing. Like you can take even just like a chicken nugget, you can sell a chicken breast. You go to the store, it's like $1 for, you know, like a chicken breast. But if you cover it in flour and soy and make a little chicken nugget and put it in a bag, you can sell that for like $5. And so like, or just cereals, you know, like it's the cheapest thing ever. It's probably cost them like 10 cents. And you can buy the cereal for $3.50, whatever.
Right.
So no matter what, there's always the huge difference in profit margin.
So there's a historical component to it. There's a financial component to it. There's a moral, ethical component that's really misleading. And if I just, in 2 sentences, you know, I support healthy, like us raising animals in a healthy way, treating them respectively. But by being a vegan or not eating animals, you don't bypass the poisonous food system. This is what I tell all my patients. Whatever you feel about animals, like by eating the corn, by eating the kale, you are still consuming pesticides.
Right.
You're still supporting a food system that is essentially poisonous to you. And you're not bypassing that by not eating meat. It's much smarter to support farmers that do regenerative agriculture by supporting local organic producers.
Local organic,
That's how you respect a cow, for example, is by paying the farmer that has a pastured cow and by buying their more expensive produce that's not covered in so many chemicals so that they can continue to raise these healthy cows, and then buying that grass-fed pastured beef, those free-range eggs, right? Like that's how you support a healthy food system, not by putting roses on pieces of steak in your local grocery store.
Right.
That's crazy. Like, I'm sorry. You got to call that behavior out. You can't just be like, oh, they can do that. But it's crazy to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's sad. You're missing the point, and all of those people are not healthy. And we're not talking about just eating for the cows to be healthy. You're talking about human health. Like, we have forgotten that it's not enough to just survive. Like, they've convinced us that if you're surviving and you could watch your TV and you sit on your couch and you're kind of miserable, but that's okay. No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's like what I'm trying to like tell people. You need to go outside and feel fucking good. Like, feel good every day. And if you don't feel good, it's time to do something about it. And it's layers to this shit. Sorry, I'm getting too fired up.
Rant, baby.
This is supposed to be a funny. Where's the joke?
Well, I can't because the food stuff.
Make this funny.
Right, make it funny.
I'm learning, dude. I love listening. Did you see what the Whole Foods guy said?
What are the Whole Foods guys?
Yesterday or the day before. Ooh, I'm gonna misquote this. Jamie, pull this up if you can, Jamie. The Whole Foods guy said something along the lines of, America's obesity and health issues are because of, what did he say? They're like, not because of, it's not an access issue. It's a knowledge and wanting to change issue.
Agreed.
I like that.
And a lot of people, I agree with that, but a lot of people immediately were like, oh, the billionaire from Whole Foods said that? Pfft. Yeah, right. But the thing is, Whole Foods has the 365 brand, which is just as affordable as literally anything from Walmart. Maybe a couple cents more on the gallon of whatever, but I agree. And even if you're just going to Walmart, even if you live in like what they call food deserts, right? Where all you have is like a liquor store and a garbage, family run market that's been there for 100 years. There's still vegetables there and there's still meat there and things that you can eat that aren't a can of refried beans, and a box of cereal. And if you have $7, you can spend that wisely rather than spending it unwisely in an uneducated way. And so I thought it was really interesting that he said that. He got a lot of negative feedback for it, but to me, it makes total sense.
Well, of course he's going to get negative feedback, but I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be a stupid thing that he was going to say, but
that was smart.
It's right on.
Yeah.
It's right on.
Yeah.
And to add to that, like even the concept of a food desert. So in those places, they're always talking about fresh fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. Right. So skip them. Just get the meat. And the reality is in a lot of the impoverished places, there is a local market and they're selling meat. And oftentimes things like the most nutritious meats, your livers, your organ meats, are cheap.
Dude.
We just have minimized them as a food source. It's like you can't eat liver. It's nasty. The days of liver and onions or cod liver oil, even like just like a piece of meat, it's just been vilified to the point where when we're talking about food deserts, they're talking about produce. Don't worry about the produce. Most of the produce is covered in so many chemicals. Unless you really educate yourself how to purchase them, you can't really afford healthy vegetables unless, you can't. But when it comes to meat, you can really sustain yourself and really do well.
Yeah.
Even in an impoverished area. But that means you have to eat an animal-based diet. And it
also means you have to cook. You have to put in like a little bit of extra effort. And that was the next excuse. Like sometimes I feel like people just get caught in these like excuse loops where everything, like if I'm playing devil's advocate right now and you just said all that, I'd be like, well, what if I work 2 jobs and I get home at 10, I have to be up at 6 and I don't have time to cook. And then, but like for me, I've been poor. You know what I mean? I've been there. I still am poor. So I'm still there. And like I used to work at Cheesecake Factory and I would do PA jobs. So those were 2 jobs and I would work like these 14 to 16 hour days, but I would still like make time when I came home to take care of my body. And if you're not going to make time to take care of your body, then you're just killing yourself and you're blaming it on people like this billionaire Whole Foods guy. Sure, he's a billionaire. You're allowed to hate billionaires. You probably shouldn't if they're nice people trying to change the world for the better. But you know what? Some people just hate rich people, and that's fine. But like to look for excuses instead of looking for like the answers, especially when it comes to diet and taking care of yourself, it's brutal, dude. It's the stupidest thing anybody could ever do.
People make excuses. You could cook up a thing of ground beef on Sunday and eat.
Dude, 10 minutes or less.
10 minutes. You can cook eggs. I always go to eggs and ground beef. It's cheap.
It's the easiest thing. Salt and pepper.
Delicious.
That's it.
It's tasty.
But think about what those 2 food items are so vilified, right? One of the first things I tell my patients is there's multiple studies that show eating eggs does not increase your cholesterol. Don't worry about your cholesterol for one, but you're okay to eat eggs. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And then red meat. Obviously, I don't even need to explain that, but that food product has been vilified when it might be the healthiest thing you can eat.
Yeah.
So yes, ground beef. You can now purchase grass-fed ground beef, at least in Los Angeles, in many, many grocery stores,
Costco.
even everywhere. Costco.
Dude, you know what I
mean,
made
you
yesterday?
could get it on Amazon now. Like they delivered ground.
I did ground beef meatballs, but I bought liver.
Yeah.
and I chopped up the liver at home and I mixed it into the meatballs and
Bomb.
I fucked it up so it didn't taste good. But I can imagine that it would have tasted good if I didn't fuck it up.
Just get the right seasoning in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I just need to figure out how to cook liver.
Mince the liver.
I did. I minced it. I put it in with the ground beef, but then I think
You can also soak
it just was like weird.
You can soak the liver while it's a fillet in milk, and it'll take out some of the
That's what's
nastiness.
I was reading online. Too.
So I grew up eating liver, where I'm Russian.
Yeah.
Liver is like baseline breakfast food for me.
Well, how would they cook it? Fried?
Pan fried, like
Really?
as a liver steak. We would slice it up into pieces and fry it up. But most famously is pate. So my dad would boil like liver and some other organs, and then just grind it up, and then add some seasonings. The real key if you're making pate is like a little bit of honey, because that little bit of sweetness counterbalances that kind of irony taste, and you get like a really robust sort of like umami flavor.
Yeah. I don't have a grinder, so I'm probably not going to do that.
Meat grinder
It's
yourself.
also, it's because your palate, you grew up eating it, so you just think it's tasty. Like most people don't.
Right.
I don't have the palate for liver exactly.
I want the palate for liver because it's so good for you, but I just got to figure out the right way to cook it.
Yeah.
Isn't it good for you?
It's it's one of the most nutritious foods you can eat. When a bear
They eat the liver
they eat
first.
the liver. When wolves, the alpha cat.
yeah.
This is baseline. By the way, like all of the nutrition recommendations that we talk about are anchored in ancestry and history. Like while right now we do have a wave of research supporting us. There's a lot of great studies now supporting red meat and animal-based foods. You don't need that stuff. Like I talk about this a lot, but I'm going to keep bringing it up. There's a cult of evidence-based medicine. Evidence-based medicine is very, very important, but it's a newer thing. It's only about 100 years, and it's done a lot of good. But it is not the only source of health information. It is not the only place you can look to get guidance of how to live your life.
Yeah.
You know, evidence-based medicine is very expensive to do research studies, and it's often biased by whoever's doing that study. We could talk about that forever, but suffice to say that a lot of the recommendations that we make are not really well supported, even though people flaunt the studies. And part of that is if you overwhelm people with evidence, then whoever has those studies to quote on the podcast, here's that study, they sound really good. But what we need to do with food and lifestyle, not just food, all lifestyle, movement, sun exposure, these things, is just common sense. Like, you are a human animal. It is not surprising to say that spending time in the sun is good for you.
Right.
It is surprising to say, don't spend time in the sun, you're going to get skin cancer. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Humans knew what was up. I'll just say that. Humans are smart. I always say we had the same brain 300,000 years ago we had it now.
Yeah.
We don't have all the technology, but we had the same cognitive ability. And what we were professional at is our environment and food and how to create healthy babies and how to live and well. And up until, like 100 years ago, we had it figured out. Even 50 years ago, our grandparents had it figured out. They're like, yes, eat eggs, eat bacon, eat liver. They had it figured out. So we're really only talking about the last 70 years of where we went astray. So yes, we could show studies and try to be like this, but it's like the humans have figured this out forever.
We have suppressed our intuition and replaced it with flimsy studies.
Yeah.
And that is scary. You have epidemiological evidence that is flimsy at best to suggest that saturated fat is bad for you. So you remove the heart of human nutrition and ignore your intuition to eat animal products. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
That's maybe in a weird way what's leading us to this disastrous version of tribalism, right? Like, we know instinctually we should have a crew, we should have a tribe, we should have our people, but that doesn't mean you hate everyone else.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so it's like the further we move away from our intuition, and this is where things like plant medicines and spirituality and meditation and psychedelics, like, that's where they reconnect us. They'd like almost force us to reconnect to our humanity and go, oh crap, I need to rethink what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I am not operating like a human being. Like so many people that come to me that have tried mushrooms or had an ayahuasca ceremony or just discovered meditation or discovered Wim Hof breathing, their realization is, I'm not treating myself like a human being. Like I'm listening to a guru, or I'm following some ad, or I'm listening to some article, and I stopped listening to myself.
Yeah.
Like we are so well evolved and adapted to dominate this planet. We just need to listen to ourselves. And when yourself says, get out of bed, go to the sun, take a bunch of deep breaths, yes, it changes your life. That changes your life. You do not need to take drugs to feel better. You can just go outside and breathe deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people are like, oh, that's woo-woo. It's not woo-woo. That's,
Right.
You know what I mean?
So sunlight is not woo-woo. Yeah.
Breathing
People
is not-
don't take enough time out. It's like a timeout. It's like hitting the reset button, you know? People don't do that enough.
Another thing about you, Brent, since we invited you on the podcast, so we
Thanks
should
for coming here
talk.
so we could yell at you.
Bro, I love it. This is what I live for.
No, but real.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm like a fan. I discovered you. I am a fan. I'm a huge fan. I discovered you, and I've been following you. And so one of the things that I was so inspired by because I found you before COVID, and you were just making videos, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, pre-apocalypse.
Pre-apocalypse.
Yeah.
And you know, you're so open with your emotions and like who you are. I think the authenticity is really what I think attracts so many people to you, right? Like I think we're living a time where people rapidly want to get corporatized so that they could cash in, but the real people that are like meaningful and driving change are authentic people, authentic humans like yourself. So when COVID hit, you didn't make videos for like a month or two, and you kind of disappeared, and we all went through it, right?
Yeah.
Like life fell apart rapidly, and
Yeah,
for
it
a
was
guy
weird.
who's dependent on going into public and entertaining people, that goes away. And I could only imagine the kind of like emotional, but this is what inspired me. Rapidly, like within a few weeks, this dude was making his own SNL show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like a weekly show in his apartment. He
Yeah.
said, screw it. I'm going to like do it myself. And first of all, hilarious.
Thanks,
like
man.
so good. Laugh out loud funny. If you haven't listened and seen these videos, it's all over his social. Please go check it out. But I mean, that is the kind of thing that I'm trying to remind people. Like that is a human being taking into control what they can control and putting like positivity out there and not being worried. I don't have a ton of money. Oh, my apartment looks like, screw all that. I'm funny and I'm going to put out my funny and I'm going to put out this good. And I think that's why you continue to kind of like grow this Brent Pella,
Yeah.
you know, person. I was super inspired by that. I was going through it too. And I saw that and I was just like, yes.
Thanks, man.
Gas pedal,
Yeah, it
let's
was
go.
weird. Those first couple weeks were like, I mean, everybody had that like pandemic depression, right? Those first couple weeks. And I had a whole tour planned through the summer. I was going to be in like 18 different states doing like 30 shows. All got canceled.
Wow.
But dude, being like sad is fucking boring. You know what I mean? Like it's boring. It's not fulfilling. It's just easy. It's like easy to be sad. That's the only benefit of it is it's easy. It takes no action. It takes no energy to be sad. It just sucks the life out of you, you know? And so, yeah, in April, I started doing these 30-minute weekly comedy specials of my videos and other people's videos and stand-up bits and different like desk pieces just in my living room. And then I doubled down starting in May. I was doing one video a week prior. Then I started doing 2 videos, 3 videos a week, plus my podcast had started. And it was, I saw people in comedy and in other walks of life that were just kind of like sitting down, waiting
In fear.
in fear, waiting in like mystery, like they didn't know what was going to happen next. And I was like, I want to know. I'm going to make what happens next. You know, I'm going to make it happen. And it's more fun. It's more fulfilling to be doing shit rather than like waking up at noon and staying in bed, scrolling through your phone. I stopped looking at my phone when I wake up. I give myself like 45 minutes to connect with myself before I connect with the world.
So catching beats.
And yeah. And yeah, dude, that whole like process of the beginning of the pandemic. Sorry, the pandemic. Ooh,
he said it.
Is he serious or is he joking?
Oh no.
It's just it was a matter of like, trying to stay happy, and that's what I did. Thank you though for the kind words. You know what I mean?
What were your like favorite videos, or what kind of messages you had an evolution in that even?
Dude, I was so frustrated at the world. Like I hated when the shit first started happening, I was already questioning it. It was already like there was so much misinformation and there was so much bullshit. What's up?
Inconsistencies.
Yeah,
You're
so many
like,
inconsistencies that like just didn't make sense about all the things that were going on, and so I've always been like just really in love with making silly stuff that has nothing to do with what's going on, because I want my stuff to be like a departure from real life. But then when all this hit, the switch got flipped where I started seeing all the ironies and the idiocracy of different things that were happening in regards to the pandemic, current events, whatever, fucking murder hornets, whatever was the new crazy thing, Tiger King. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to like highlight that because that was all people were paying attention to. It's almost like people didn't want a departure from current events. They wanted a departure within what was going on. They wanted like I need this to be silly. That felt like a lot of people's mentality in April through June, July. Was like, this is all insane. I need something. Somebody make fun of this. Somebody do something with all this stuff that's going on. And at least that's what I felt. And so because I felt like that, I felt like maybe other people would feel like that. And so that's what inspired me to start doing more topical stuff and touching on topical things. Like the mask versus no mask.
The cancel
debate,
culture
right?
videos.
The cancel culture
like
video,
it's so freeing to hear that made fun of, right? I think that the cancel culture made people that are already like have a lot of eyes on them. They're afraid to say anything about these tough topics, and there's no release for people. Like whatever you feel about masks, it's an intrusion in our lifestyle, and you got to get that frustration out somehow.
Yeah,
So your comedy, the skits. It's not whether it doesn't matter what you believe about the actual like benefit. It's about letting the frustrations out.
Yeah,
and we need to have those like channels of release.
Yeah,
and I worry that there's a suppression
of speech.
Yeah, thank you.
Ruin that. And talk about. I like that you a lot of times have a message at the end.
Oh yeah, for those ones, yeah.
Tell people about like.
That's funny, man. So it all started when I love doing bro comedy.
Yes,
that's one of the. It's not the only thing I do. It's not even the main thing I do, but it is one of the things I do. Is I make fun of bros. I am a bro. I love bros. I consider myself a mature, conscious bro. Right?
Spiritual bro.
Yeah. See? So like, I make sure the cocaine is organic before we do it. Just kidding, mom. No. Or is he? Okay. So the bro comedy is like, I was doing videos as these different bros. They all have heart to them. You know what I mean? They all have good in their life. And so I did one where I had this dude come on, he's wearing all pink and he reads a poem, and then all his other bros make fun of him. And so now I had this character that had like a little bit of heart to him. It was like this emotional bro. And so
woke bro, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a woke bro, exactly. Yeah. And so I started to do a series of videos where it would be two characters in an argument, and then this bro would come in and try to mediate. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, I call it the Breichel series because the character's name is Breichel. And so it's my take on the absurdity of our current climate, where we have this extreme tribalism, or if not tribalism, these extreme viewpoints that refuse to consider the other side.
Toxic tribalism.
Yeah,
toxic. Good tribalism, toxic.
It's toxic, and when a third side comes in and tries to expose the truth and in favor of unity, they both unite in hating that guy. Right. And so that's just like the fun way of doing it. And so that started with the mask versus no mask debate. These two guys would argue, and they were both just hyper realistic. And then he would come in and they both shit on him. And then it was, what was after that? There's the cancel culture one, two guys trying to cancel each other. He comes in, he's like, "No, dude, we all just got to get along, dude. Stop canceling each other for the stupidest little thing, dude. We don't have time for that, dude. There's way more important things to focus on." And they're just like, you're canceled for being a fucking square, you know? And then the most recent one was I did a video called California People Moving to Texas.
Yeah.
And it was the California liberal moving to, the Texas super. And they were both, again,
over the nose.
Right. Yeah, pull that up, please. And they were both like way overplayed, just because that's funny and that's my style, is just to be silly. And then he comes in and he's like, "Dude, California guy, stop trying to press your ideologies on Texas. Texas guy, stop trying to force them out of your home and just consider that they respect your land and we should all get along." And they're like, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm from Portland." And then they both hate him. He runs away. So it's like a fun series. It fits in a lot of different categories.
I like how you teamed up with JP. So JP's out.
Yeah.
In Texas. I had him on my show, Peak Human.
Awesome.
And I might move out to Austin. We talked about that.
Oh, you're going to be that guy.
I'm going to be that guy. I'm the Austin bro.
Yep.
At least I'm from Hawaii, and I'm not just a California bro.
Oh, okay.
Austin
yeah,
bro.
that's cool.
Like,
they'll respect you
maybe
more.
they will.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm from California.
No, say you're from Hawaii. Yeah.
But yeah, so what's up with JP? Like, you guys seem like you kind of woke up to, like, what's going on here. People call it conspiracy. What's your take on it?
Yeah, he's we agree on a lot. We definitely disagree on things, but in like a really respectable way. But he's like, JP Sears is full steam ahead, no fucks given, calling out whatever needs to be called out.
California pretty hard.
Yeah, he came at California pretty hard. I was like, "Hey, buddy, careful, easy." But he's like, he dives in deep, dude. He and his stuff is funny. It's just he's got his voice, a very unique, specific voice,
Like I was saying, I think his comedy, it's almost like he's just a real truth sayer.
Yeah.
And he does it with like a little like half smile, but none of it is a joke. And so it's not laugh out loud funny. It's like cringe funny. It's like, ooh,
because
that's
like
too true. That's too real,
Yeah.
And I think, you have similar messages, but it's laugh out loud funny. And I think we need both of those. We need more of you guys because it's what our culture is thirsty for. We need a release. I bring this up a lot, but it's just the overwhelming amount of mental health I'm seeing in practice. People that used to just be fine. I always ruin the comedy vibe. I got it, but whatever. I don't know.
No, we're chilling.
Yeah, but
mental health.
The mental health crisis is a crisis.
Yeah.
And people might not feel it because they're in their little bubble, right? Some people are really lucky and they have a nice house to be in and they work from home, and other people are stuck at home with their small kids and they have to homeschool them and they're losing their mind, and other people are afraid to leave their house because they think they're going to get COVID as soon as they walk on the street. Yeah. There's people are all over the place, right? And I'm not judging any of those people. I'm just pointing out we've created a culture where there's so much inconsistencies, right? There's so much, I don't want to call it misinformation. There's just so much information. Like, what do you listen to, right?
Right.
They are losing their minds. People that would come to me, we would talk about optimizing their vitamin D and just a good workout routine, are now coming to me really depressed, having panic attacks, insomniacs, people who have never abusing substances and coming to me and openly telling me because they know I'm not going to judge them and they need someone to tell, right? It is really bad out there. It's only getting worse. Our leadership is not doing anything to mitigate the negative effects of policy. Whether or not you agree with the policies, there are tragic side effects that we can mitigate. And so you are someone out there mitigating those side effects by being that comedic voice.
What are you saying, dude? I should run for president?
Yeah. as one of your bros, though.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the thing, dude. I keep seeing people online be like, dude, comedians are doing a better job than politicians right now. I agree. That could be my ego talking, but I am a fucking hero, dude. No, but for real, it's
for real.
We see people on the news, they're not pointing out what's real. They're sticking to a partisan line, and we live in a world in the age of conflicting information. So everything that we've talked about, whether it's veganism or carnivore diet, somebody out there could find legitimate scientific studies saying the exact opposite. That is the world we live in right now. It is you, and then you could find scientific studies saying the opposite of what they said. And now we're in this fucking never-ending loop. I don't know how we get out of it. I don't even remember where we were 10 years ago without it. But it's like there's money to be made pushing different ideas, and it makes me nervous to think that we're like losing a grip on the ability to figure out what's actually true.
We are treating science like a religion. Like science is a tool. And parties are trying to own science.
They say the science is settled. Right?
Some groups, yeah, right. But honestly, Western medicine has been trying to say the science is settled on every issue until it's not settled. Like when I started my residency in medical school, there was one batch of recommendations to manage disease A, B, C, and D. By the time I was done, like it took 12 years to be trained to be a doctor.
Yeah.
The A, B, C, and D were being treated very differently. And by the time I went into private practice, I realized, there's like 10 other ways to treat A, B, C, and D that they didn't even teach me about, right? So it's just a war of information, period. And I think at the heart of what we're trying to do with SAPIEN and why it's important for us to expand past, like Brian has this amazing podcast, Peak Human, where it's all science and it really is scientific presenting science of all sort of different angles. But I think when it comes to SAPIEN, and this, it gets to the heart of what, this problem is if we need to not just have science, but we need to have spirit. We need to have emotions. We need to have history, which is a different kind of science, but it's definitely a different kind of science, right? To look back on history. We're going to have Bill Schindler on, who's an evolutionary biologist, anthropologist.
Everything.
So he gives similar recommendations, but from the prism of historical data from fossils, right?
Oh, cool.
And so that's a different kind of science than like the epidemiology that plant-based people promote, because that's what they have, right?
Yeah.
Or like some of the research that we promote, which is like also not that great. It's very hard to do research on nutrition, which is a whole other can of worms. But I guess back to my point is what I hope to do with SAPIEN, what our mission statement has been from day one when we're like, we're going to team up, me, Brian, and Yaniv are going to team up and like make this company. It's to breathe some life into humans, right? It's give science with spirit, with heart, with emotion, all these woo-woo words, but it's not woo-woo. If you take information and then you take intuition and you take emotion and you take spirituality, whether that's religious or self-guided or whatever, and you integrate it, you land on the same thing, like love each other, like eat reasonable foods that are human, like for real foods. Like, yes, thank you. Real food. Like that, I think is a way out.
Yeah.
From this debacle. I think it's when we use science as like this, like hammer.
Yeah.
To beat people down with. Like, no. And most people are not scientists. They're not trained to read a scientific paper anyway.
Yeah.
Good one. Another rant by Dr. Gary over here. So, okay, what is the way out of this in your eyes? You're not the doctor. You're not the politician, but we're talking about tribe. We're talking about overload of information. We're talking about all this type of stuff. Like, I always think of what can the individual do, and I say it's like just go outside the system. You don't watch the news. Like, what do you think you can do? Is just like a everyman type of thing?
That's such a layered thing, right? Like,
stop watching the news. I mean, simple.
Yeah.
Like,
what has worked for you?
For me, putting in like the extra effort to figure out what exactly other opposing viewpoints are saying without just reading a headline and thinking that's telling the whole story, whether it's about a current event or a movement or health or politics, no matter what it is, people are quick to read a headline and then read 3 tweets and then think they have all their information, right? I've done it so many times. And it's that thing of putting in the little bit extra effort to read a couple articles and watch a couple videos if you really want to know what's going on. If you don't want to know what's going on, then you have to admit whenever it comes up, I don't know enough about this to have an opinion. But people are terrified of admitting they don't know. So they latch on to like quick 140 character catchphrases. And then they think that can encapsulate an entire ideology just in one Twitter headline. And so they express that thinking they know everything. For me, it's just putting in the extra effort. I admit when I don't know shit. I don't know a lot of shit about a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit I don't know about. I don't know shit about shit.
It sounds like you're talking about ego. Because people who have an ego don't like to admit when they're wrong.
Yeah.
If you don't have a big ego.
Yeah, I mean, it's breaking down your ego to the point where you have the ability to admit when you're wrong. It's so important, and I just people don't do that enough in my eyes. People I talk to, friends I have, that will make wild claims. Like I'll just give you a political example, right? Like the people that say, "Oh, a vote for Trump is a vote for white supremacy and slavery." That is just as crazy to me as people who say a vote for Biden is a vote for China and communism. And it's like both of those things are so extreme, but you have so many people that have latched onto those and refuse to budge. I have people in my family that refuse to budge. I don't have the answer as to how to change those people. I only know how I've avoided that is by putting in a little bit extra effort to listen to people who maybe a year or so ago I would have written off, right? Let's give more specific examples instead of staying vague, right? So like now I follow online many conservative journalists, many right-wing conservative journalists and public figures because I've never been right-wing. But now, after hearing and listening and watching and reading what these people have to say and the facts that back up their arguments, there are some things that I agree with them on. Whereas you have a lot of people who will see their bio, those people's bios that I follow, and just be like, no, fuck that person. He's an idiot. Right. He's a racist. Fuck him. But it's like, that's where we lose. You've already lost because you're not even giving this person's opinion a chance. And if we don't give anybody's opinion a chance, then we're stuck in that cycle. You know, that for me, that's just for me.
It's a great.
Everybody might have different things.
It's empathy. It's seeing both sides. It's all. If you have empathy, it's basically seeing both sides. And that's what people don't have. They don't want to expose themselves to other information. And I do the same thing. And yes, I grew up in Hawaii and California. Like I was just liberal my whole life. And then just since COVID, I've woken up. I've seen through some of this. I'm not going to call it propaganda, but just the narrative, this messaging that's kind of falling apart now. The inconsistencies. So I know we're running out of time here, but just it sounds like you've woken up a little. Maybe it's just my group of people that I talk to, or maybe it's just the animal-based community is sort of red-pilled, like I said, on the nutrition stuff, and then they get more red-pilled on other stuff. But I feel like there's this mass wave of people who are waking up to the mainstream news narratives and just that liberal, like ultra-liberal narrative, and are moving towards this more like freedom. Maybe it's libertarianism. Maybe it's not like everyone's like a Trump supporter now.
There is that, but I also see people move. It's almost like a triangle, right? It's like some people moving this way, others moving this way, and so I don't know who's moving which way the most. Because my sister's in college, and so she's just
that
bombarded with social media, and they're going so far left. And so progressive that it's like some of the things are just absurd. But I think you mentioned the word crumble. I see a lot of things crumbling in the next 5 years. In the next 4 years, for sure, I see a lot of things crumbling. And once some of these, long-standing narratives and people in power have, dissolved, I think we'll hopefully see more of what's really going on, and people will have an easier time of like formulating their own opinions on things.
When systems crumble and dramatic changes happen, yes, there is a lot of negativity and there's a lot of difficult times, but it creates opportunity.
Yeah.
It creates opportunity to do something better, to change the things for better. And like one lesson that I think I've I want people to realize from your story and how you've responded is happiness is a choice. Like everyone has a different situation. Whether you have a lot of wealth, not a lot of wealth, everyone is dealing with something and everything is relative to your perspective. But it's easy to indulge in sadness, sit on your couch or sit in your bed, not do anything and wait for something to change and just wallow. That is easy. You said it.
Yeah.
What is harder or hard is to choose to be happy and then choose to do whatever it is you're passionate about.
And the benefits are so much better, dude.
Yeah, bro.
So much better. It's like running a mile. Once you finish, you come home, and it just feels like you just have an orgasm for the rest of the day. You just feel so good, dude. You know?
Everyday orgasms.
Everyday orgasms.
That's it.
Dude.
I think that's a good note to end this party on.
I love it. Yeah. Brent, thanks so much.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Thank you,
dude.
Brent.
I appreciate it. I love you guys.
I love you, Brent.
Peace.
Peace. I don't know.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Please share this episode with friends and family. Give us a review on iTunes and check out everything else we're doing on sapien.org. And we'll see you next time.